The Sentinel of Hallownest brings her full might to bear upon us. We've beaten her once before, but perhaps think of this like her own version of a dream rematch. Faster, tougher, more versatile. She's gonna come at us with absolutely blistering speed. I mean it. Watch close and you will see that she barely leaves so much as a frame between the cooldown of one attack and the startup of the next. And unlike dreams, this time the danger is all too real. And in Steel Soul, our life is on the line. And she's coming at us with a record-breaking 8 attacks. Pardon me if my list here looks a little more squished than usual. I formatted it for 7, so... Anyway, returning in high form, the Lunge, the Aerial Lunge, the Pearl Hurl, the Jumping Spider, the Gossamer Storm, and still the most dangerous, Walking Forwards. New to this fight are the Counter Stance and the Spike Weave. As you may expect, all 6 returning attacks function exactly as they once did, only faster and far more frequent. It has been a fair while since that first fight though, so let's run them down again. The Lunge is the standard dash attack that we've gotten very familiar with by now, countered as ever with a jump and a pogo for good measure. The Aerial Lunge is a little trickier due to its variety of angles it can launch at, but shallow angles are best dodged by jumping, steeper ones best dodged by going underneath. Although now's a good time to bring up the fact that a lot has changed since our first encounter with Hornet, not least of which is the ability we earned by defeating her in the first place, the Mothwing Dash. Dashing underneath her is an especially easy way to avoid dodging this attack in all but the most extreme cases. The Pearl Hurl feels like it's had the most significant decrease in windup, so the projectile nail can catch you unawares if you're not hanging at a safe distance, but otherwise no change. Once again, the surprise thread yank back maneuver is the only version of this attack, so it's definitely not going to be fooling anyone this time around. It's faster than before, of course, but with our dash, so are we. So clearing the distance of a thread to get in a strike is easy as can be. The Jumping Spider is as difficult to dodge as most jumping maneuvers are these days. It's got the speed, it's got the random chances of being used as an attack aimed at you, or just as a means of relocate, so as always, we're going to maximize our chances of avoiding it by keeping our distance. Thankfully, she seems to rarely, if ever, use it to jump more than a third the length of the stage. The Gossamer Storm is probably her easiest attack to dodge now that we have the dash. Just dart away whenever you see her strike that pose. This attack does finish up way faster than it once did though, so gone are the days where we could easily land a full volley of Vengeful Spirits when she used it. If you're gonna launch a spell at her, just use one, then get back to dodging. Walking Forwards is probably a little less threatening now that it's easier for us to dash away after we attack, but I still fear it greatly. Ah well. Keep your distance, it's the safest way. Now, for the new attacks, the Counter Stance reminds me of the Pearl Hurl, in that it only really has its surprise factor the first time. Basically, she'll raise her nail up in this defensive position, and if you hit her with your nail while she's in that pose, it will harmlessly glance off of her, and she'll respond with this wide slash. If you don't hit her, she'll just drop the guard in a moment. This really isn't an attack worth worrying too much about. It has a short windup, so it's probable that she'll block one of your attacks before you could possibly have reacted to the guard coming out, but the time it takes for her to respond with her own slash is pretty generous, and as long as you dash away as soon as you hear that sound, you'll be just fine. The Spike Weave is the biggest curveball that Hornet's going to throw at us. She'll only start using this at about 2/3 of her health, and you can think of the spikes she summons as small, immobile enemies. They'll remain in their spots until you hit them with an attack of your own. Bear in mind that spells work just fine for that task. Much like most summoned enemies, clearing them away should be a very high priority, as you really don't want them to hinder your abilities to dodge the rest of her attacks. However, since they don't pursue you, like Loskin's balloons for instance, it's a lot easier to worry about them later if Hornet has you otherwise pinned down. At the very least, just try to clear out your immediate area using the window between their appearance and Hornet's next attack, and you can utilize the time allotted by attacks like Pearl Hurl and Gossamer Storm to clear out some of the more awkward ones. Our plan of attack here has hardly changed despite how much the both of us have grown. We're going to let her come to us once again. Center stage remains your best friend, but distance from Hornet in between attacks takes precedent. Above all, you just don't want to get caught by her deciding to walk towards you while you're right next to her. Focus on getting in all your damage during her attacks, like landing a nail pogo while she lunges underneath you. My number one tip here is not to get greedy. It will be tempting to try and land just one more attack while she's cooling down from her last maneuver, but that cooldown is frightfully short, so this is a surefire way to get yourself hit unnecessarily. The fight will take a little longer, but patience is key. As I said, the Spike Weave is the biggest complication. All it takes is one poorly timed Jumping Spider, and she can strike you down while you're trying to clean up the spikes. So, just like her, try to only focus on attacking the spikes while she's attacking. Of course, she can also be staggered, and that's an excellent time to swipe away some of the spikes, as well as the only window you're gonna have to heal. Only heal 2 masks at most, mind you. We're getting to a point in the game where staggers are lasting for shorter amounts of time than they used to. Now, she may not be quite as powerful as some of the Dream rematches we've fought, but she stands as a bewildering test of our speed and agility. Now all we have to do is prove that we're faster. And we'll find Hornet Sentinel, the iteration of her we fought way back in the Kingdom's Edge. Now she's not too different. Obviously, like many bosses, she does have the extra HP, but in my opinion, the biggest change that they make, even on Ascended, is the background here. It is a lot more colors and a lot more just animation going on. And you know how I was mentioning I have like some color blindness problems with the this one with the spike weave? Well, here it's even worse. It can be really hard to tell where these are if you're not actively paying attention to them. But if you can get past that, she's not too much of a problem. 1200 HP on Ascended can cause issues, of course. What's with the double counters, Hornet? You did that last fight, too. But, as long as we are just ever so careful about doing our damage between her maneuvers instead of during. Or, during instead of between. Listen. Careful. Then we should be able to pull this off just fine. She is countering a lot. She must not like me in her space here. We do have the Shade Cloak now, which does give us slightly more leave to hang out in her personal space than we did before. But I wouldn't recommend being too greedy with it. And I'm more so taking advantage of our Mark of Pride now than I was. And having the ability to hang out outside of her melee hitbox. Only took 1 hit there, that bodes well for Radiant. As for my personal memories with this fight, when I first played this game on the Switch and was doing this Radiant fight took me a long time. And to be completely honest, I had no idea there was input lag in the Switch version, because I'd never... Actually, ironically, I had played the Steam version by that point, but I didn't remember it well enough to be able to tell the difference. But, even though I wasn't consciously aware of the input lag, I believe this fight was the first one where I was really starting to feel it. Stop doing that! Ah! She doesn't usually counter twice in a row. That feels extremely rare. Oh, shoot. Of course, she's not worth underestimating. She still is blisteringly fast. And having basically no cooldown between any of her attacks does still make her an extremely potent opponent. Ooh, not bad at all. Okay, and that's gonna do it here. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Sorry that final attempt was so quiet. I did have to concentrate a little. She is quite fast. But thanks for watching anyway. If you're interested in seeing more of my fights against these bosses and not just my breakdowns, you can check out the playlist at the top left. Our next foe is the Collector.